How much stuff are we holding that's weighing us down in our environments? Think about that alone and getting back in control of our environment. That creates so much lightness. And again, this is all about lightening up so we can get to the lightest part of ourselves, and that's our soul.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Wendy Myers. Welcome to the Myers Detox Podcast. And today I have my friend Elaine Glass on the show, and she's going to be talking about finding the path to your true self, to your true purpose. And she's written a fantastic new book called Get Quiet. In that book, she talks about the 7 paths to your true self, the 7 labyrinth paths, and how do you get to the center of your labyrinth. She's going to be talking about also what her unique method of energy healing is, talking about, really getting quiet, focusing on meditation and drowning out all the noise to really connect with your true self and your true purpose, and tells us her story of doing that as well as a single mom. Our guest, Elaine Glass, she has over 15 years transforming lives with her healing presence. She's coached countless people to unlock their truest selves, finding purpose, peace, and self-empowerment. At one point, she found herself at a personal crossroads, a newly single mother, burned out, fearful, alone. She lived the next decade in search of her own healing and inner truth. And her mission today is to guide people in connecting with their soul's calling to bring lasting love, joy, and vitality. And she travels the world sharing her holistic healing techniques, energy medicine methodologies, and spiritual guidance. She resides currently in Paradise Valley, Arizona, where she welcomes people from around the world in her personal retreats. You can learn more about her at elaineglass.net, and you can get her book on Amazon. It's called Get Quiet. So Elaine, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Wendy. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, so I met you at a kind of a mastermind with your, is he your husband now?
Fiance.
Your fiance. So tell us a little bit about like your background and your fiance and like how you kind of got on your personal journey.
Right now, I am an author, which I'm thrilled to say that is who I am and what I'm doing these days. I'm also proud to say that I've done a lot of things in my life. I've had a lot of different identities, and I love welcoming in new identities throughout my life. I want to gather as many as I possibly can. So right now I'm an author. I am a certified master life coach as well, and international speaker. And in my past life, like many moons ago, I was a dental hygienist, and I sat with over, get this, 40,000 patients one-on-one.
Wow.
And I would say that was my life class. That was in my early 20s and 30s. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of patients. That's a lot of dental patients for sure. Yeah, and you're engaged to Michael Fishman, and and he's amazing. I think he's a really great guy. That's glad that I met you through him so we could do this podcast. And so you have recently written a book. Can you tell us a little bit about that? It's called Get Quiet. And I love that title because I think that's getting quiet is something that's really hard for people to do, but so necessary. So tell us a little bit about your kind of like genesis of writing this book.
Well, I've always written. I've kept a diary since I was 16 years old. And that has really been my quiet time. That's how I process the world. And that was such journaling has just been like my therapy. So I never knew that those journal entries and the insights that I've always kept would now be a published book. And so what happened was I was in a really, really dark moment. I was going through a very difficult divorce. I had 2 small children at the time, and I needed to get healthy, and I needed to get healthy quick for my kids. And I didn't know how. I just wanted someone to knock on the door and say, hey, I've got all the answers, but nobody came. So I had to save myself. My kids were suffering. I was suffering. We were all going through a really difficult loss. And this was the moment that I said, I need to get healthy, mind, body, and soul. How am I going to do that? And this is how I began writing about my journey to that. It took me a decade to really get the whole work of the Get Quiet Way together. But I'm sharing this now in a book because I don't want it to take anyone a decade.
I know there's a huge learning curve when you kind of try to figure out all this stuff on your own, like the journey to healing, which is mind, body, and spirit. So it's it's nice when you can take advice from someone or get insight from someone that's kind of had kind of a rough road. But tell like your personal journey with even detoxification in
Yes.
your healing journey.
Well, I realized early on that I was carrying and holding so much. And that can be the need for a major detox. So not only do we detox, I believe, in our bodies, but we have to detox in the mental, emotional. We have to detox the spirit. So it's a whole combination of these three things going on. And but it's interesting because it did start with the body in a lot of ways. I actually went and got some testing done and found out that I have suboptimal detox pathways genetically. And that really hit me hard because I thought, oh, well, that's the reason why everything is not working. Well, that was just one part.
Welcome to the club.
Oh, really?
People have bad detox genetics.
Yes. But I didn't want to be at the effect of that. In fact, I had one doctor said, oh my God, Elaine, they're so bad that you actually need to go like live on a deserted island in Hawaii somewhere and live off the land. Like that would be your best environment. And I was like, what? I mean, I don't think so. So it scared me. And those wake-up calls just scare you. And, as you know, because you're the expert, we're living in very toxic environmental times. And so it's just this battle of trying to help my body detox. And then as my body was detoxing, I was doing the things that I was prescribed to do. I also noticed that as I was detoxing chemicals, mold, yeast, all these things that had built up, heavy metals from dentistry, that I was also detoxing my mind, healing mental, emotional aspects of certain generational patterning, anger, resentment, jealousy, all those things. So the body started to detox, mind, emotional stuff started to detox, and then I was able to get to the sweet stuff. And this is where Get Quiet really started, was me getting into a soul connection. Because when we are weighed heavy down with all of these chemicals, with all these mental, emotional issues and, unhealed trauma, we can't get to the good stuff. We can't access the quiet and our soul's voice. And so once I was able to get detoxed and access my soul's voice, that's when my life really started to take off.
So for anyone listening that really wants to detox their body, go to heavymetalsquiz.com. I created a quiz for you. It only takes a couple of seconds. Based on some lifestyle questions, you can get your toxicity score and get a free video series that answers all of your frequently asked questions about how to detox your body. Check it out, heavymetalsquiz.com. That really resonates with me because I think there's a lot of people, including myself, when I was not feeling so great, very, very toxic and, years and years of just abusing the body for food and alcohol and whatnot, that you almost are not able to be like in touch with your creator, like almost there's just like you're almost cut off from your pineal gland is so toxic, or calcified with fluoride or whatever the case may be, that you're almost cut off from your spirituality or talking with God or however you want to label that, or your connection to the universe. And I felt very much cut off from a spiritual side, because I was so toxic and brain fog, and you're just so preoccupied with trying to feel better that it's just spirituality takes a back seat. It's just not a priority.
100%. And you actually forget to have those dialogues with God. And that's really where the good stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
But we're so bogged down, we're weighed so heavy down that we can't even access that. It's like a tuning fork. There's no connection. There's just too much in the way. And so one day I found a retreat center, and I was led there by a guy in a coffee shop who I had the presence to stop and talk with for a moment. And he said, I'm a recovering addict, and I go and walk this labyrinth at this retreat center, and maybe that will help you. So I was like, okay. I was so desperate at that time. I was like, whatever it takes just to get some relief from the grief and disappointment and difficulties of being a single mom. So I started walking this labyrinth. And if some of the listeners haven't walked one yet, what a labyrinth is, it's an ancient contemplative meditative walking meditation. And it really symbolizes your body going to the center of this labyrinth and meeting the soul and being able to make that connection that we were just talking about. And so it ended up being a half a mile away from my house. I couldn't believe it. It was there all along. And I started walking this labyrinth. And it's funny because I heard a lot of messages there. It was so quiet. I could finally hear myself. It was so loud before, and there I was quiet. It was quiet enough to hear. And I heard a lot of messages at the beginning, but there was one that I think you'd be really interested in. And that one was, this was about 6 months after walking the labyrinth pretty regularly. I heard, don't take your thyroid medicine, Elaine. And I was like, what? I was in the medical field. I know you take your medicine every day. You don't miss a dose. You take it at a certain time. I was that person. No, don't take your medicine. So I didn't take my medicine. And I felt so good. I was like, what the heck is going on? I had taken that medicine for 10 years. And what I was doing, and I didn't even realize that I was taking every handful, was causing me physical depression, mental depression, and so many other symptoms that I didn't even realize. And had I not gotten quiet, had I not taken that time to tune in and hear my soul's voice and hear God say, do not take your medicine, who knows? So anyway, what ended up happening was there were so many, as you know, excipients that are just binders and coloring and fillers in all of our medications that my body was just sensitive to it all. And I ended up going to a compounding pharmacist. They tweaked it so that it was a lot cleaner and a lot less medication too. So these are things that happen when we tune in and we get quiet and we find quiet places. Our life changes.
Yeah, because I feel like we have a spirit guides, we have angels or spirit guides or whatever we want looking over us. And it's really, you have to get quiet to hear their messages. Or I've read that, God speaks to us through our feelings. And we get messages we think that they're our own thoughts, but really we have people and God, angels or God guiding us, and we have to trust and surrender and listen to that, and it does require shutting up and getting quiet, to hear those messages, and it's been there all along, but it's just a matter of, I think so many of us, we do go through, like you said, that labyrinth to, get in touch with that spiritual side of ourselves, and we're ready. Everyone's journey looks different. Everyone's ready at different times to kind of surrender and accept that. And some people never get there. When people have a lot of resistance. Also, I think I certainly had lots of resistance to kind of God, accepting God, or believing in God and surrendering, to that side of myself.
It is confronting sometimes. People say, well, I don't want to get quiet because it's scary, because it feels isolating. And really what's happening is we are actually, for the first time, maybe ever, being with ourselves, being with the energy of ourselves. And that is grand. I mean, think about if you're like this huge, giant oak tree. I mean, and you're standing next to it. I mean, that is grand. And when we get quiet, we get present to our greatness, to our grandness. And that can be off-putting. But once you just settle in and take it little bit by little bit, and that's what the book is about. Get Quiet is about taking each step little bit by little bit and getting used to and embracing your grandness. I mean, this is what life's all about. Not going on autopilot, but really, really digging down deep to the core of who we are and saying yes to our soul's calling, like I know you have. Because I know that when I wasn't saying yes to my soul's calling, I know that those 40,000 patients that weren't saying yes to their soul's calling and the hundreds of people I've coached, they're not well. They're not well physically, they're not well mentally, emotionally, and they're not living their best life. I've had to learn that lesson. So that is my message.
Yeah. And what are some of the tools that people could use to get quiet? Because I know there's meditation, but I know I resisted that for a long time because I just felt like I wasn't doing it right, or I just couldn't quiet my mind. Or like, what are some of the tools that you suggest for people?
The main tool is to find a labyrinth near you, because that is a secret portal that very few people know about. And they're all over the country. There's over 5,000 labyrinths, and they're kind of tucked in very interesting places like hospitals and schools and churches and on private properties. And literally, I think like thousands of years ago, they used these labyrinths because they knew it was a portal to like some other realm. I mean, it's fascinating what happens energetically within you that shifts when you walk. So go to labyrinthlocator.com, find a labyrinth. There's also one in the book. I have a one that you can trace with your finger. So all of this helps. That's the first step. Just find a quiet place. Before I found a labyrinth, I used my closet when my kids were little. I'm like, I'm going in my closet. I'm just going to make a little cocoon there, wherever you can find some peace and quiet.
And are these kind of like energy vortexes?
They are. They really, really are. And when you first enter a labyrinth, you will feel your spirit guides. They will take you by the hand lovingly and show you the way to your soul again. Because I feel like we have lost the connection to our souls. We know our bodies, we can see our bodies, but we've lost this connection to our soul. So the first path of the labyrinth is about nurturing your body, not beating your body up, not talking badly to your body about your body, nurturing your body. Especially as women, we sometimes have lost our femininity because of all of life's demands and having to use more of our masculine energy. So instead of pounding on weights and things like that, which of course there's a time and place for lifting weights, but maybe it's just swimming and dancing in your pool or taking nightly walks, just gentle appreciation for the physical body. So that's what I started to do to try to heal myself, is I just started simply getting off my couch and taking those first few steps. That's the first tool. The second path is all about cleaning and clearing our environment. How much stuff are we holding that's weighing us down in our environments? Think about that alone and getting back in control of our environments. That creates so much lightness. And again, this is all about lightening up so we can get to the lightest part of ourselves, and that's our soul.
Yeah, and you mentioned that there in your book that in Get Quiet that there are 7 labyrinth paths. Can you elaborate on that a little bit for the audience?
Yes. So the first one was nurture their body. The energy point there is our abdomen, where all creation begins, and especially with women, the womb area. The second path is cleaning and clearing our environment. The third path is cleaning and clearing our mind, which is the outermost circle of the labyrinth. It's the longest path. And there's a reason for that. It's because it's the most difficult, as we know, the mind. And how do we get so present, spontaneous presence to the point that we can almost have no mind. That's the good stuff. After that, it's all about cleaning and clearing emotions, which in the hip area, that's what I got a big sense that we carry most of our emotions in our hips. And so cleaning and clearing out emotions, getting rest and receiving. And the next path after that would be grounding, and not just grounding to the earth, but grounding to the heavens as well. So that's a really fun chapter in the book to understand this new way of grounding. And then the next path after that is now you're beginning to dream again. So many of my clients come to me and they don't have dreams. They've helped everybody else. They've helped their husbands, their wives. They've helped the people they've worked for. They've helped their kids. They've helped everyone live out their dreams, but they have forgotten about their own. So this is an exciting path because now you're dreaming again. And you're being able to connect to that muse, to God, whatever it is you want to call it, that's saying, this is why you're here. And this is where huge ideation begins. The next path after that is intuition kicks in. So many of my clients say, well, I've never had intuition. I don't even know what it is. I don't think I have it. I think I've lost it if I did have it. We always have it. And this is the path where you really get it back, where it's coming in big time and coloring all the details of your dreams. And then the last path is you get to the center. You get to the center of the labyrinth and you get to the center of yourself. And you finally connect to what we were talking about, to that still wise voice.
I want to give thanks to one of our sponsors, Everbella Collagen, because as women age, collagen depletion becomes a major concern. It was for me, and especially with the hormonal shifts around menopause when our needs for collagen increases. So notable signs of collagen loss include wrinkles, fine lines, dryness, and loss of skin elasticity, that plumpness, brittle hair and nails, and stiff and painful joints. But when it comes to collagen supplements, there's not a lot of great options out there because many collagen supplements contain glyphosate and also heavy metals. They're contaminated with things like arsenic. So luckily, I found an incredible collagen supplement. It's free of toxic metals and it tastes like caramel. You can try it today for 30% off. Just go to everbella.com and use code Wendy30. Try today. I love this collagen supplement and highly, highly recommend it. Yeah, and I love that part about dreams. And there's a lot of people I know that just they don't have dreams, or they just forgot that they can have goals. It doesn't matter how old you are. I think people have to live their life very intentional because you create your life. You create your reality. And I think people have to be very intentional and think and get clear on who they are and what it is that they want, what they want to create in their life, and to never give up on dreams that you have. Like I still have so many goals. It's so crazy, dreams and things I want to accomplish. And I think I just caution people to, if you don't have dreams or goals, you need to do some work to sit down to figure out what that is and write it down and stay focused on it.
And the key word is focused. We are completely distracted, me included. And I think the thing that I feel so proud about is to have a book, because that proved to me that I could focus, that I could implement the habits I needed to focus, that I would say no to the world's noise and everything that would take me away from writing. And so whatever it is that you want it so bad, because you should want it so bad, because there's so much that will take you off course. You will self-sabotage. I self-sabotage myself many times. I wanted to give up many times. You will want to give up many times. There will be so many things that will want to take you off course. So you really will want this so bad for yourself. And not just for yourself, but I wanted this work for the world. And I know that we all have a soul's calling that's trying to find us. And we cannot find it in the distraction and the noise. It will not come to us. It won't be able to find us. That's how energy works.
Yeah, and you have to really embody that word, no. Hell no. No, I don't have time. No, I'm not giving you this or doing this for you, or no to the social media, and all these things that we do get distracted by. I think the world asks a lot of us, and it's really difficult to have like a boundary, especially for women, around their husband or their kids or their friends, and making that space for yourself first and everyone else is second. And you have to say no to a lot of things, people and that you want to please or you want to help or whatever the case may be. I think people have a bigger capacity to give and to love when they're able to take care of themselves first and make themselves a priority, which is so hard for many women.
Absolutely. I mean, this has been our conditioning. And, we can help everybody else. We can help heal everybody else. But now how do we turn now all of that inward and toward ourselves? And there is a process to do that so that you feel empowered actually by doing that. I mean, there's a reason why when you're on an airplane and they say, put the mask on your oxygen mask on yourself before your kids, like this is basic stuff, but we just seem to like not be able to do it. And so we have to flip the script. We have to literally flip the script. And it's easy to do when you actually begin to see your life moving forward in exciting and new ways. Then you just can't stop. And everyone's going to be second, But, there is this priority. Like for me, my priority is God first, myself second, and others third. And when you live in these types of paradigms, then your life will work for you.
Yeah. When you trust and you surrender to the universe or source or God or Jesus or whatever label you want to put on that. I think I find myself much happier, much more in flow. But it all has come from being very intentional and writing down what I want, what I want to accomplish, even from like in every aspect of my life,
Yeah.
You have to be. Can you talk about that, about, how to get the results, out of life that you want and how to go about that?
It's about literally waking up to the truth of your life. That's the first step. I think most of us literally have one addiction, and it's a personality addiction, and that is looking away at the truth of our lives. So it's waking up to the truth of our lives. I believe that's spirituality, very simply said. And that's the first step, waking up to the truth. No more lies to yourself, no more betraying yourself. Those days have got to be over. I was lying to myself in that marriage I was in, that I was being dishonored, disrespected. I felt like a nanny in my own home. But I kept making up lies like, oh, he'll change, or oh, it'll be okay, or oh, it's not so bad. Until, it got really bad. So waking up to the truth of your life, I would say that's the first thing to change your life. Being present. Life is trying to give us messages and trying to give us lessons all the time, but we're just not awake to all that happening. And there's so much magic. There's so much magic in that. It was funny. A funny story is I was totally saying no to these messages. And I had heard so many, like, Elaine, you're a healer. Elaine, you're going to write a book one day. Elaine, all these messages. And I was like, no, it's not for me. I'm not smart enough. I don't deserve it. I'm not worthy. Like all of the, childhood, messaging that I started to believe, especially I'm not smart enough. Who am I to do this? And then one day I was going to the grocery store. I got back to my house. I opened the car lift to take out my groceries in the back of the car. And I didn't realize that it had only opened halfway and literally rounded the back of the car. And it hit me right on the head, smacked like straight in my head, right here, right in my forehead. And I was like, oh my God, like I thought I was bleeding, like I almost fell down. I was like, what the heck? Like those things don't happen to me, you know? That night, I started literally channeling in insights and messages galore. In fact, they didn't stop for 4 weeks.
Mm. Did you hit your pineal gland? It kind of like shocked it into like started like you're kickstarting the lawnmower.
I literally had to be hit over the head to knock this sense into me. And I mean, that's just, it makes me laugh because our guides, our angels, the unseen that is there supporting us will do things, and not to hurt you, obviously, because they're very loving energies. But I literally had to just be woken up that way to say, hey, pay attention. We're here. We're bringing something down and it's important. And you're the vessel and the vehicle in which we need this to come through.
Oh, they can have a sense of humor. They can be little comedians. They like to think of themselves as little comedians. They play little jokes on you.
That was a big joke.
Yes. But yeah, I just, I love when I hear stories like that of people kind of like having maybe an awakening, where they become kind of like ready and open. And when that finally happens, then they start, I don't know, getting like a download, if you will, or they really like open up and become a vessel for whatever contribution they have for this planet, and it's just such a beautiful thing, such a beautiful, I just love hearing stories like that.
Yes. I mean, I took notes of all these things. I mean, when I could anyway, because they were so magical and I didn't want to dismiss them. And this is why getting quiet is so important, is because your life will become so magical. You will be awakened to experiences that you never thought possible. Well, you'll be like, what? And I know the listeners are saying, oh yeah, I've had those moments, but sometimes they come in many months apart and even years apart. And it can be frustrating because then it'll come again, a moment of synchronicity or something magical, and you'll be like, oh, it is real, But when you get quiet, these things are happening all of the time.
I want to take a minute to thank one of our sponsors. Therasage saunas are what I highly recommend to all of my patients for the dozens and dozens of benefits imparted by infrared saunas. But what I love about Therasage saunas is that they are portable, they are inexpensive, and they have lots of like interesting things that you can add to it. You can add ozone, you can add red light. I love that they have all these options that you can stack all these different health modalities and get the most ROI out of the time you're spending in your infrared sauna. So go check out their top of the line infrared saunas at therasage.com. Yes, yes. Yeah, and so talk to us about making changes, because I think there's a lot of people that they know on some level they're not in the right relationship, they're not in the right job, or they know they haven't stepped into their life purpose, or they need to step into their life purpose even more so, lean in a lot harder. And so talk about how to go about doing that. You talk in your book about like if nothing moves, nothing changes. How do people get that momentum or the motivation or inspiration to make those hard choices they need to make, create the life they want?
Is a great question. And you're right. When nothing moves, nothing changes. And again, this all can be scary, especially if you have a big decision that's difficult to make, like I did. And I always like to approach life with fun, with curiosity, with lightness, and with playfulness. And so if you're about to make a change and you're not quite sure if you should, what I did is I did something called an out-of-the-box challenge. And I did something different every month for 12 months, 1 year. So if you want to pause before you make a very difficult decision, and you have this amount of time, even if you have about 6 months, 6 to 12 months, and do something and take yourself somewhere different that you've never been. Do something different every month. What this will do is it will expand your energy, first of all. It will help you gain confidence in whatever decision you're going. It will help you see things differently, see your life differently, see yourself differently. Anything you're curious about that you've always wanted to do, and this doesn't have to even cost anything. It could just be like going and taking yourself to a certain town nearby that you've always wanted to go to, a certain store or park or whatever, do a hike that you've never done before. Like just something different. Because right now, you're probably in a state where you're just in your head and you're ruminating. And so you never want to make big life changes in that state. So this really gets you out of your head into your body and really down into your soul. And so after a year of doing this, I had a new career as a life coach. I fell in love with Michael, and my whole life had changed because I took this year just for me.
Yeah, and that's why I love traveling so much, because I feel like it takes you out of your element, out of your perspective, a new way of thinking and doing and, just living. And it just really fills me, and I love traveling on those points. But but I think even just like going for, like, I love walking, I love driving different places to go walking. Even doing that is getting out of the house. Getting out of your environment, out of your routine, can be so powerful. Just breathe new energy and motivation and inspiration into your life. And it can be something so simple, like you said, like just going for a walk.
It can be so simple. And getting back to the labyrinth, when you begin to walk this meditative path, instead of changing up. Instead of sitting and being in on a chair meditating, like think about being out in nature and having a walking meditation. Like do something that you think it's supposed to be a certain way, but do it a different way. Give yourself permission to be creative and to be playful and to not just do things the way they're supposed to be. Do them the way you want them to be. Like I have said no to so many things. I was able to, because I was supposed to learn how to walk a labyrinth, because there's a whole labyrinth society in a way that they honor walking a labyrinth in a traditional way. But I said no to that because I wanted to make it my own. And so and then there was an energy worker who wanted to work with me and teach me their method. And I was like, well, that's a huge opportunity. But no, something inside of me just kept saying, no, you were going to make this your own. And so make these things that you think society tells you it should be a certain way, make them your own and have fun.
Yeah, I think that's important with spirituality, because I think especially when people have programming from whatever religion that they were exposed to as a child or their family subscribes to, there could be a certain amount of programming or even, toxicity around, guilt and shame and all like that. I'm sorry. I just don't think that's God. I don't think guilt or shame or any negative emotions, that is not God. If it's anything low frequency or it doesn't feel good, because God is just pure love. So love, joy, gratitude, that's where God is. And anything that doesn't feel that way is run for the hills.
100%. And if we have children in the home, children are the greatest imitators. But we as adults have to give them something great to imitate. So when you live your life like this, when you live your life in presence, and when you live your life tuned in the way that we're talking about, it's going to inspire them to live the same exact way. And now we don't need to complain about technology. We don't need to complain about being on their devices. Like there should be no reason why we're complaining about these things, because there's so many alternative ways. But we as parents, we have to go first.
Yeah. And can you talk more about that and how we can maybe model certain behavior for our children or inspire our children to kind of walk that spiritual journey or walk the labyrinth and help open them up to a spiritual side?
It's conversations. I would have conversations with my kids instead of going and celebrating a religious holiday, in church or temple or wherever you needed to because society tells you to. I would take my kids on a hike, go up to the top of a mountain and be like, we're celebrating this here today because you can celebrate this and you can honor your spirituality anywhere. It goes everywhere you go. So giving your kids permission instead of putting walls around and making them like almost like in this prison, like this is what you have to do. I think that really does a disservice to kids, that you can be in a church or a temple, but you can also be anywhere else because it travels with you always. That God is not just outside of us, but God is within us. And when you have that shift in perception, that's what I wanted to model to my kids, are these awarenesses and insights that would come to me and I would share them with them on a regular basis. So they are totally tuned in because I got tuned in.
Yeah. And so talk to us about your unique method of energy healing that you talk about in Get Quiet.
When I got really quiet, Wendy, like this was the thing that I did not see coming. And this is what I want for everybody. Because it will happen to you. It will happen to you. I promise you. When you get quiet in this way, your muse will find you. And my muse found me. The energy found me. And I said yes to it. And what came to me was after I had done my own prescribed 7 focuses, walking the labyrinth that we just talked about, those energy points came through to me. And I thought they were going to be separate and not in the book. I thought they were a whole different modality, and I would even write another book about just the energy points. But it was very clear that they belonged in Get Quiet, that they actually belonged in the work. And they came through me like a tsunami. I was out walking one day, and I had gotten to this state of being, going from loud, fearful, noisy life to complete lightness and love in my heart. And that's when it found me. And these energy points came through, and we kind of talked about them at the beginning. There's the abdomen, the heart, the head, the hips, the feet, the legs, the tailbone, and the shoulders. And in that order. And that is the body scan. And that's the energy. Those are the energy points that are in the book, Get Quiet. And that's how they came through me. And now I teach that to my clients, and it's extremely healing.
Wonderful. And so why don't you tell us where we can learn more about your work with you, your website, and get a copy of Get Quiet?
Yes, you can find me at elaineglass.com. And the book you can find anywhere you buy your books, and also getquiet.com. And there'll be some bonuses there for you as well.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Elaine, thanks so much for coming on the show. It was wonderful meeting you. Probably almost 10 years ago, I met you. Maybe I think it was like 7, 8 years ago that I met you. And, it was just nice to spend that weekend with you at the mastermind. And so I'm just really glad we got to reconnect and that you have this book out that we could talk about. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much, Wendy. It's been a pleasure.
And everyone, thanks so much for tuning in to the Myers Detox Podcast. I'm Dr. Wendy Myers, and it's such a pleasure to, do this show every week. It's so much fun, and having all these guests and experts from all around the world, because really my goal with the show is to help you, give you, those little key pieces of the puzzle that you're looking for on your physical, emotional, and spiritual journey as well. So thanks for tuning in every week.
The Myers Detox Podcast is created and hosted by Wendy Myers. This podcast is for information purposes only. Statements and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Wendy Myers and the producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.